past couple weeks. I know I haven't gotten my breakdowns up on YouTube, but I've been there in person, so I've still been providing coverage on my Twitter and Instagram accounts. Thank you guys for, being okay with my breakdowns that I posted on Twitter and everything. I don't know if you people saw those, but I don't know. But just getting into the week 7 breakdowns here, they're going to be quicker because a lot of these fights I feel like don't need too much of a breakdown. So getting into the first fight where a big breakdown isn't needed, I'm going to be getting into Javier de Oliveira first, who is a very interesting fighter. So Oliveira, he only has 2 fights of tape. He fought an obese man 4 years out of retirement and then head kicked him into space in like 20 seconds. I'm really not sure how they found him. It's kind of like an Arthur Lopez situation from last year. He's a southpaw. He has some really big power in his looping right hand, it seems like, but he did get cracked a couple times. He's only had 2 fights of tape that I could watch. This fight ended immediately with that head kick, like I said. This fight, he got cracked a couple times on the feet, but did land a bit himself early, and then took his opponent down with a body lock, and the opponent gave up without him even landing a ground and pound punch. He was just laying on top for a bit, and then the opponent just told the ref he didn't want to fight anymore. So that was basically all I got on Jair de Oliveira, but he has 5 first-round finishes. One of his fights was back in 2015. That was the only decision win he had. So he's been finishing fights since he came back. He's 29 years old, 6-0, but he is 5'9" at light heavy. So that's obviously something we're, going to have to be looking at going into this fight because that's very, very bad. Now moving on to Rafael Tobias here. He is 22 years old, 13-1, 10 finishes and 13 wins. And he does get a lot of finishes in round 1. Has fought a lower level of competition overall. He has shown some pretty solid head movement throughout his fights and does have a very solid jab, but it doesn't really scare his opponents away. It doesn't really dictate the pace. He kind of uses it a lot to set up his takedowns for the most part. He has some decent short hooks and blitzes forward with overwhelming big punches, and also has some pretty nice leg kicks. And he likes to stay very tight defensively. He almost seems scared to get hit, but the problem is he still gets hit, so it's not really working. He does have some pretty well-timed takedowns, though. He likes to clinch up and get takedowns from there with some solid cage control. Just good transitions to mount, pestering ground and pound. He'll use it to finish, set up submissions. His control isn't great, though. I've seen him get reversed from mount, and it just really he'll just take you down, get to mount, and then smother until he can break you with a ground and pound or so. That's how really most of the have went. I wasn't able to watch too many of his fights because, as you can tell, he's fighting in these random one-off promotions like Fight Music Show and Fighter Stars 3, Castro Fight Night 2. Like, these aren't real promotions. And then we saw him go over to LFA. He fought Miguel Porto over there. He was actually a pretty solid fighter, and he was hanging on the feet and looked fine, but just kept letting Porto throw the right hand over his jab, and then got knocked out from the right hand getting thrown over his jab. It was a really low IQ moment there that he lost from. He was constantly getting countered and doing the same thing and just kept doing it until he got knocked out. It was just really weird. He does leave himself open when striking too often as well. And like I said, he's just fought a lot of weird promotions. Like, I just really don't trust a lot of the promotions he's fought for. But then again, when you get into his opponent, Jair de Oliveira, it's not much better. So going into this fight, I mean, I think I want to say Rafael Tobias should be able to get Oliveira down and smother him from there. I mean, with Tobias having a poor level of competition, Oliveira's might be even worse. So when we consider all these things, like, I think I just have to go with Rafael Tobias to win, probably in round 1, maybe round 2. But I mean, he could win by KO or submission in this fight. I'd probably see it more by ground and pound. That's usually what he likes to go to before he sets up his submissions. So I'd say, if anything, maybe Rafael Tobias gets a ground and pound win here, first round, second round. But he gets hit and doesn't react too well to being hit. So if Oliveira actually does have that power that he seemingly kind of showed on tape, and Tobias doesn't get him down early, we could see Oliveira crack him a couple times before getting him down, maybe even put him out, because it is clear that Oliveira has some kind of power, but just when you're fighting the level of competition he fought, and what can I say? It's really not much I can judge. So now moving on to the next fight. This honestly isn't a matchup I'm very excited for, to be quite honest. Javier Reyes, start off with him. He was brought on, I think, to be a guy that gets probably finished by Icaro Brito, who is a fighting nerd and one of the better prospects at 145 right now. And then Brito pulls out with visa issues second year in a row, leaving Reyes to fight now Justice Torres, who was his second short notice replacement. Just really rough situation overall. I don't think getting Reyes in the UFC was the initial plan with having him on DWCS. He's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. 21-5 overall. When you go through his record, I mean, a lot of these early fights are just against bad competition. Then when he got the decent competition, he lost 3 of 4 fights and then started to fight middling competition again until he got to LFA and went basically, pretty solid from there, but he did have the 2 losses in LFA, so I don't know. Reyes is he's a very interesting fighter. He has some big leg kicks, but he kind of just looks like he's throwing in slow-mo with his punches. There's really nothing behind his straight punches. He does have some decent power in his hooks, his left hook, right hook, just kind of when he spams the right hook up close. He can crack you if you're being a bit reckless. There's some power there, but it's just very sloppy. He just throws a high volume for the most part. His finishes are more about timing and accuracy than they are about actual like straight raw power or like very good striking. He shows a lot of his punches and winds up really big sometimes, and he keeps his chin high in the air. He gets stuffed by the jab and straight just constantly and just has bad striking defense. I don't like his takedown entries in general, but he can be relentless on his attempts and really push for them. He has a decent single leg and some deep tosses, a pretty good rear naked choke and back takes, but like I said, he's lost 2 of his last 5 when he's fought the level of competition you would expect him to be fighting in the UFC or on DWCS or whatever. And he got tooled by Chris Makate. He really didn't have too much to offer him. He did get a later takedown, but he really couldn't do anything too meaningful. And then the Larian fight, he really did nothing in that fight before getting absolutely starched by Larry Douglas, which I don't even think he has a bad chin by any means. I just think that Larry Douglas is a guy that, starches people. So I think he suffered that fate just because he really wasn't on that level, and you kind of saw that throughout that fight. And I feel like his pace and pressure obviously just wears on his opponents. He may have that as his best attribute, honestly, the way he wears on his opponents with his pace and pressure, because honestly, a lot of the stuff he does is a little bit sloppy. And moving on to his opponent here, Justice Torres. For Justice Torres, I mean, he's short notice. I did have him on my DWCS shortlist before the Cameron Graves loss. I was shocked, though, that he got on because, I mean, this loss was a real bad loss. But Torres is a southpaw with some deep power in his left hand. He throws all the punches with his left hand pretty well. His straight, his uppercut, his hooks. He has some really nice sharp elbows, but there's some times where he'll really just freeze and not throw. He has some great combos when he does decide to tee off and throw, but he's so low volume sometimes it almost feels like he's scared to throw punches because he's scared to get takedown. He just has the worst takedown defense. He just gives up takedowns for free. I mean, he really won't even fight them sometimes. In his last 3 fights, he's been taken down at will by all of these opponents, basically. Barely even gave them any fight when it came to the grappling. And it was just a really, really bad look. He just has some really low IQ moments and scrambles. He can get up sometimes, but he'll just get dragged right back down. He can easily be swept if he does end up on top. He is pretty calm when he's in submissions. He stays calm and has some good defense, but he seemingly just gets out grappled until getting a big finish. That's what happened in the Freeman and Torres fights, and that's what happened in the Graves fight. Was he was getting out grappled and outstruck in that fight and kind of just froze on the feet. He tried way too hard to get a walk-off KO in his last fight against Cody Freeman and gave away the finish multiple times. And he just like has a lot of these weird moments where he's way too relaxed and like smiling and joking around in fights where he's clearly losing. And I just don't like to see a lot of that, especially when he has things he clearly needs to work on as a fighter. He's just like laughing off the fact that he's not getting better. Really weird. He's very frustrating to watch. And that performance against Graves was just he's seemingly tough to finish, though. I'll give that to him. He does have pretty good cardio. He's been 5 rounds. He can keep up. And he gets cut in the same spot above his left eye right here every single fight. And I think he has like even a little indent. So he just like basically has blood coming out of his face no matter what if his opponent can properly hit him in the right spot. The Wilson fight was all right. It was an impressive performance at the time, I thought. Watching it back, it really wasn't. It was a 3-2 fight. I thought it really could have went either way. Torres didn't do enough, didn't look that impressive. The Pena Alamov loss looks really bad looking back on it. The Matt Jones loss isn't great. He does have some decent wins overall, but just I don't know with Justice Torres, man. He really just the lackluster, quite honest with you. And I'm shocked he got this opportunity on short notice. I don't think he's a bad fighter. I just don't think he's a UFC caliber fighter. But you can honestly probably say the same for Javier Reyes, even though in this fight, I am going to favor Javier Reyes by decision or a later finish. I think that Torres, the short notice element of this fight, is going to play a role. I think Reyes will likely land multiple takedowns. He'll just get a couple easy early takedowns, be able to control, rack up that control time, maybe put Torres in a couple uncomfortable spots, but I don't think he'll get too close to the finish. I think Torres's volume in this fight will be the big difference maker. When it's on the feet, if Torres is throwing and isn't afraid to get taken down, it's possible he clips Reyes, wins some moments, maybe even takes the rounds. And that's what he needs to do in this fight. But based on what I've seen, I cannot trust this guy's grappling defense. It's just been very, very, I mean, amateur. I think that's the only way to describe it. So against a guy who's going to be shooting, who's going to be grappling, I think I have to pick the wrestler here against a guy who's takedown defense I just couldn't trust. That's also coming in on short notice. So I'm going to take Javier Reyes here to win by decision. I think the pace and pressure may bring him a late finish, but I think Justice Torres is a pretty tough guy to finish generally. So I'm going to say just a decision. So moving on to our next fight between Sofia Montenegro and Jaisla Chaves. This is another very intriguing fight because another one that both girls really don't seem to be UFC level. I'm going to get into Jaisla Chaves first just because we had one fight of tape on her. It was her last fight against Rebecca Souza. So she did get the third round finish with 30 seconds left in that fight. She can strike in both stances. She has a sharp pull right hand, uses it a lot, popping left hook, quick combinations. Solid high kicks and body kicks, constantly peppering with them. And I really liked her elbows in the clinch off the break. I thought she landed some really big elbows in that fight that honestly might have finished a couple other girls. I'm not saying Souza was overly tough, but she might have some kind of chin on her there because she ate some really big elbows and I was like, damn. But Chaves can be reckless coming forward when brawling, but she is fairly effective when she does, and she does get caught on the back foot sometimes. Has some pretty nice body lock takedowns, some solid ground and pound elbows, and decent power overall. She's just a swarming striker with pretty good cardio and solid power. Moving on to Sofia Montenegro. Oh wait, I just do want to point out Chaves is 28 years old, 5-0 record with 4 finishes, 3 finishes and 5 wins. Apology, forgot to bring that up before. Moving on to Sofia Montenegro now, though. Montenegro is 6-1. She's from Argentina, 26 years old. She also has 4 finishes in her 6 wins, but Montenegro is I had a bit more tape on Montenegro, and I got to see more things, which I don't know if I like, actually, to be quite honest with you. So, Montenegro is a bit flat-footed, but she does control the cage well. She can fight in both stances and pushes opponents back well. She has good combinations when teeing off, uses her jab and left hook very well to manage her range. She has a quick and popping straight right, mixes it to the body, but she really just throws the same combos repetitively. It's really just the same thing. You feel like you're watching the same thing with Montenegro over and over, all the same combinations. So she blitzes forward with these winging hooks, doesn't really deal with pressure well, has some decent rear leg kicks and some decent reversals with some good ground and pound. But some of her fights have been a little sus. Her only loss, she got caught by that right hand by Gisela Luna coming in, rocked and murked bad in 10 seconds. That was really bad. It showed some very bad deficiencies with her chin. The Landy sub was terrible. Landy was sitting there going for a heel hook on her for like 30 seconds, and then as soon as Montenegro went for a heel hook, Landy tapped to it. It was like, really? You wanted to play the heel hook game for that long, just immediate tap when your opponent did the same thing? It was like very stupid. Like, Landy is not a good fighter. And I thought she should have been TKO'd by Melanie Rodriguez with ground and pound, and potentially even on the feet at some point as well. I thought the ref would have actually stopped it if it was the other way around, and I was thinking that to myself in the moment, and then he did. As soon as it happened in round 2, as soon as Montenegro got like a good combination off in round 2 and had Rodriguez up against the cage, when she swarmed her, the ref just stopped the fight. So I thought that was awful. I thought that, this probably should have been a TKO loss as well. I do think she has some really good cardio, though. I think that she's shown that in her fights, the Perez fight, the Vargas fight. She went 15 minutes fine, but I feel like like, it's weird. This is almost a mirror match in a sense. And like for my prediction, it is like a mirror match, so it's tough. Neither are too impressive. If you feel like Chaves almost fights with more aggression at times, maybe a little bit more power. I'm just gonna side with the unknown of Jaisla Chaves here, and just the fact that I haven't watched her get brutally KO'd. I mean, I think both of these girls actually hit kinda hard. So I'm gonna say that the one girl I've seen get KO'd by similar power is probably the one more likely to lose here, but I'm just going more with the unknown in Chaves. And honestly, I kind of liked what I saw in that one fight on tape. I liked those elbows. I just kind of liked her ring generalship, and the fact that she seemed like she wanted to finish. She seemed like she wanted to win. So I just think that'll be really nice for DWCS. It feels like Montenegro has skated by in her last 2 wins, whereas, I've seen Chaves actually push for that win. So I feel like it's going to be a brawl until one falls, or just a really bad pitter-patter matchup. But I'm actually going to lean towards the brawl until one falls. And I'm going to take Jaisla Chaves by round 1 KO for a little bit of a spicy prediction here. I know a lot of people may not agree with that. I don't know what the general consensus is on this fight right now, but I am not high on either of these girls. I thought Montenegro getting knocked out and the look of the Rodriguez fight was really bad. So I'm really leaning with Jaisla Chaves here to make a statement, come out trying to get this win, land something big, maybe a big elbow or something, rock Montenegro, and finish her with strikes. Moving on to our co-main event here between Brayhan Zurcher and Murtazali Magomedov. This is a very, very interesting fight. So we're going to get kicking off with Brayhan Zurcher here. 2 9-0 fighters. Zurcher from Mexico, 29 years old. He's been training with Islam and Khabib out in Russia for a bit now. They've been using him as one of their main training partners. He said that they like that dog he brings, that the fact that he doesn't quit and they can't break him. He says that they like that, which makes sense because skill for skill, I don't know if he's on their level, but at the same time, if he has that dog in him, he really could be putting up some really interesting fights in the gym. So I'll give it to Zurcher for sure. So Zurcher has a cracking overhand right and a really quick left hand with a lot of power in his left hook. He has some really dangerous hands when he's teeing off with his hooks, and has a ripping left hook to the body. He has a really nice switch high kick too, and a really nice push kick with some body kicks. Big outside leg kicks. He throws them early and often. I think they'll be a big weapon in this fight, and I think they're one of his more dangerous tools overall. I think he has some good knees and evade strikes well. There are times when he can be too aggressive when he's brawling and leave a lot of openings, though. It can be caught on the back foot when moving backwards, but he doesn't deal with pressure all too well, and slips too often on the floor. He has some really weird moments where he's just like slipping around the cage, getting caught on the back foot, like just some really bad looks in some of his fights. I think we saw that in the Bardsley fight a bit. We saw that in the Scotty Stockman fight a bit for sure. It was just some weird moments overall. Zurcher has some pretty good double legs, some really solid trips in the clinch, okay takedown defense, some solid balance. He did get headlocked and briefly mounted by Jimenez twice, though. He did reverse pretty quick, and he was tossed by Stockman as well. So his takedown defense definitely could have used some work, and it seems like it did in his recent fights. His takedown defense did get some work in his recent fights. He has some pretty solid grappling and scrambles, though, once it hits the ground. He's grinding once he's in a good position on top. He has some pretty strong control once he gets to that half guard mount. But from the regular, like, full guard, he doesn't have the best control, doesn't have the best ground work. He has some big ground and pound elbows, though, some heavy punches, some nice back takes, all right rear naked choke. He'll threaten the guillotine at times, but he can be a bit slow to react to subs. And he had a really close fight with Scotty Stockman. Got walked down a bit early and kind of beat up a little bit on the feet, then adjusted and was able to win that fight. But he hasn't fought in 15 months, which is a little bit of a scare for me. He hasn't been very active. He has been showing improvement, though. The last fight was by far his best KO. He has a great chin and really solid cardio, just like, the regular Mexican way, good chin and good cardio. That's Zurcher, but he's got some wrestling, he's got some hands, he's got a couple things, but he also has some things that I don't love here. Going into Murtazali Magomedov, he's another one that has some good things, but don't know how much I love it. 26 years old, 9-0, has finished every one of his fights. He has never been the distance. So he's very timid on the feet. He's always pumping out his lead left hand. He has a quick straight right with some great power when it lands with timing and accuracy. Really can crack opponents with it. The Elner Ibragimov fight, he did get that knockout with that straight right hand with perfect timing. He has some tapping leg kicks, forces a lot of clinches on the feet though as the fight goes on. We saw that in the Sartor fight. We saw that in the Brito fight. He sets up and times his knees very well. He uses a lot of clinch knees. They're very strong. It's one of his main weapons, really. He got a crazy knee knockout in this fight, and we saw him in a bunch of these other fights use his knees as one of his main weapons. He has a decent double leg, and he can get pretty creative with his takedowns, the way he picks up the leg and stuff and kind of uses his weight. Has some really good balance overall, good takedown defense, but he can give up dominant positions too easily. He'll be on top in a dominant position and just give it up, let the person up, or just let the person out. I have seen him ride the back pretty well. His back control isn't too bad, but in terms of other dominant positions on top, he'll just give them up way too easily. He does have a pretty sneaky triangle choke off of his back, pretty tight. We saw that in the Sartor fight. He was getting controlled though in that for the most part. He was taken down and held on bottom, had his back taken. Were pretty bad moments in that fight overall, to be quite honest with you, but he was able to thug his way through it, get the finish in round 2 off his back with that triangle choke. He has a decent rear naked choke. He has some pretty solid submission defense, though. We did see him get put in a couple submissions in some of his recent fights against Brito. He got thrown in a guillotine. I'm pretty sure Sartor had him in some kind of choke or something at some point as well, and he was able to get out and defend. So that was pretty good. But against Brito, 10 seconds in, he got dropped and thrown in a guillotine instantly. I mean, 10 seconds in, he gets dropped pretty bad. Rocked, then dropped, then thrown in a guillotine. He got out, but really not a great moment at all. Not the best look. Brito isn't a bad fighter, but just still, he was, in my opinion, losing that fight fairly clearly until he landed a Hail Mary knee out of nowhere. But his cardio seems all right. It's a little bit of a question mark, but it really does seem to be fine. I mean, he did go pretty deep into fights here, and he looked fine in both of those. So I want to say that Murtazali is pretty good. I don't know. I was a little bit unimpressed watching these two fights, I'm not going to lie. And then when I saw these three, it was a bit more understanding as to why he was brought onto DWCS. But this is a really odd matchup because I could see both of these guys either having decent success and staying in the UFC for a bit or not winning a fight and getting cut. And I don't know if one should be heavily favored over the other. This probably is my closest fight on the card. I do lean towards Brayhan Zurcher, though. I want to say he has more tools overall. I think both are going to have their moments for sure in this fight. I think Zurcher's kicks and power will give the trouble, while Magomedov's knees and length give the trouble. I do lean Zurcher on the feet overall. Magomedov a bit on the ground, but it's close in both areas. I'm just counting on Zurcher to have the bigger moments, land the cleaner, bigger shots more consistently, be able to not get dominated in the grappling. I don't think Zurcher will get finished. I think he'll be a lot tougher to finish, and I think he will have the better cardio in this fight. I think it should be close overall, though. A 29-28 decision either way really wouldn't shock me. What would surprise me, though, I know Magomedov has 9 finishes and 9 wins. He's not the best finisher. Like, he has some really good finishes, but he's not the best finisher, and Zurcher is tough to finish. So I would be shocked if Magomedov finishes him. I see the finish more on Zurcher's side, if anything, and I actually do predict him to win by decision. That's where I'm going with this. So if I favor him to win more by finish and more by decision, just a little bit in both, I think I do have to say that I favor Zurcher overall here, but it's a really, really close fight. So with that said, I'm going Brayhan Zurcher by decision, but very, very interesting fight. And both of these guys, like I said, could be longtime UFC guys or could be cut fairly quickly. So moving on to a very exciting middleweight main event of the evening, we have Montes Kondratavicius versus Johnny Barbir. I want to say it said Johnny, but or Johnny, but I could be wrong. I might just call him Dani. But we're going to start off with Montes Kondratavicius here. So Montes Kondratavicius is 7-1. He is 6'2". He is from Lithuania, so a very different market, not one we see in the UFC often. And he is a striker for the most part, for sure. He has a snapping jab with some quick combinations, but he can get a bit sloppy on the feet, to be honest. He does have a crippling left hook and a clean straight right with some really nice timing and power. A really clean rear uppercut, and he'll really time the head duck with that uppercut. He has some big shots off the break too. He'll initiate a lot of clinches with some strong elbows and knees when he does. and he rips to the body. He has a nasty left hook to the body. Sloppy flying knees. You'll see him jump across the cage with some sloppy flying knees, but he doesn't deal with pressure all too well. He gets caught on the back foot and loses his defense and just has bad striking defense overall. He can get drilled in the clinch. He has some solid first layer takedown defense though, some really good hips. He made Ogden work so hard for his first takedown, but allowed the takedown way too easy after he did allow the first one. Once that first takedown was given, he was done. He had no more resistance. He had a really rough bottom game, allowed easy transitions to dominant positions, gave up his back, and just really got dominated by Ogden once Ogden actually did have him on the floor. The Chamu, he just absolutely sparked with a straight right hand. It was nasty. And then Garbouge, similar thing, just sparked him. I mean, just a lot of weird wins though, like, you know, like medical stop due to injury. Like, he's had some interesting fights to say the least. Montes has also never been the distance or even really close, to be quite honest. He's only been into the second round, later into the second round, and he does seemingly have pretty bad cardio. His fight against Ogden, he did seemingly gas out pretty bad, but there was a lot of grappling there. I feel like the Ogden fight was almost like a DWCS tryout. But Ogden was a bit boring, and then Montes ended up being a big KO after, so Montes got on instead of Ogden, which Ogden's better, but not as exciting, so I kind of get it. Moving on to Dani Barbir here. So Barbir is 7-0. He's also pretty young. I don't know, we don't have an age on him on Tapology, but I am fairly certain he is pretty young, and he's from Croatia, so another market we don't have much of in the UFC at the moment, so it's great, because this fight will give us someone from a new market at 185, no matter what, which is pretty interesting. I always like to see, you know, guys from lesser known markets breaking in. So Barbir is very twitchy. He's very physical. He's a very dictating jab. It's very strong and range controlling, and he has a clubbing straight right hand that has some massive power in it. He has some nasty front kicks overall and some solid body kicks. You'll see him throw spinning kicks and punches a lot in his fights, spinning kicks to the body, to the head, spinning back fist. You'll see all of that from Barbir. You'll see him throw the flying knees as well. He can be countered by the straight right, I did notice, which I am worried about in this fight because that's one of Montes' best punches. And he did walk into punches way too often against Maziakowski. I mean, that was a really bad performance. All of these fights, he was just performing so well, such dominant wins. At least these fights, these are the ones I saw. But then against Maziakowski, he looked terrible. Apparently, he went into that fight injured, but I don't know. I don't know if that's an excuse for the way he performed there, because it was a really bad performance. He has a great chin, but doesn't defend punches. He can be caught off the break and just runs into things head first. He does have some good tosses in the clinch, massive ground and pound, just kind of nonstop. Some really creative grappling overall. Some odd takedown defense at times, but it works usually, but he can be put in uncomfortable situations on his back if he does get taken down, but he usually doesn't let finishes get away from him. If he sees a finish, he will get the finish. He saw it in the Veratic fight, grabbed it, the Karacic fight as well, and the Spahovic fight. I mean, he just punted this dude. He literally punted. This dude was so much smaller than him, and he just literally front kicked him and punted him. It was so bad. Like, I don't even know how to describe that. You have to watch it. I felt really bad watching it, honestly. He snatches up submissions quick, and he'll take advantage of any opportunity. He has some really quick and tight chokes, and he's very inactive. He only fights like once a year. I mean, he fought in 2019 here, then 2022, 2023, 2024, now once 2025. His inactivity is going to be an issue if he does get into the UFC, so we better see him get a lot more active if he is in there. Like I said, the Maziakowski fight was a terrible look, but if that fight didn't happen and there was only these other fights, or if he just looked a little bit different in that fight before getting the finish, he probably would be a top prospect, especially at middleweight right now. So I really can't fault Barbir a lot, because if he was injured going into that fight, it is what it is. For this fight, I lean that Dani Barbir gets the round 2 submission, or that Montes gets the round 1 KO. This is another fairly close fight, honestly, but I do like Barbir here. I just think he's more crisp on the feet. Even though Montes is the striker here, I think honestly Barbir is a bit more technically sound overall. And I think Barbir should be able to land some solid punches on the feet and then get it to the ground where he knows Montes is weaker and finish the fight from there. I could see Montes getting a knockout like he did over to Chamu, like a 50-second knockout, just absolutely sparking him with a great right hand, because Barbir does walk into punches. So Montes KO 1 really isn't out of play here. I mean, that's my second most likely outcome, honestly, but I do think Dani Barbir will get the round 2 submission. I think his control, his takedowns, and just he does look really legit, you know. So I'm gonna lean with Barbir here to maybe face some early resistance on the feet, but look all right overall, and then get the submission in round 2. So that is my pick for the main event, and that is DWCS Week 7 finished and over with. I want to thank you all for tuning in to episode 7. I guess not episode 7, whatever episode this is this season, but thank you. I want to thank you guys tuning into my Week 7 episode and breakdown of Dana White Contender. Hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'm happy to be back on YouTube doing these. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy, and hope you all have a great day.